What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's Rahul. Today we're going to be continuing with some post-rotation content. There's been some Sword and Shield online tournaments that have been happening on play.limitless.tcg. Some people have been playing, some people have not. These tournaments have been averaging maybe like 60 to 80 people for the post-rotation format, Sword and Shield onwards. But if you guys are interested in getting into competitive play, that's where you should be looking. The Trainer's Toolkit information is out. So if you want to get back into the game, buy back into the game, I highly recommend buying those trainer toolkits, getting pretty much all the staple trainers you need across the board, and then you can kind of flesh out your attacking lines afterwards. I made a video on what you guys should buy getting back into the game. I definitely think that video is a good thing to watch. But for now, let's jump into this list because it's a little bit of an interesting Shadow Rider list that I didn't expect to do well, but it did. It went 5-1 in the event last night, and it looks cool, so let's talk about it. So here it is, and right off the bat, you can already tell that the Shadow Rider list is not the normal Shadow Rider list we've seen. Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX using Underworld Door. It's your draw, it's your attack, it's your acceleration, all in one package. The card is very strong in the upcoming post-rotation format. Max Geist for 3 colors energy, does 10 plus 30 for each psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon. So there's a lot of different ways to play Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. The most typical way we've been seeing is Shadow Rider paired with Alchemy VMAX. Something that's very consistent, very standard, because Alchemy's got the adornment attack, and you can also just set up your board in one fell swoop. Very good attack, very good card. You obviously play a 4-4 line of this because it's your draw and your attack. It's like when you're playing Zoroark back in the day. Getting 3-3 out is usually what you want to get out in a game, but getting 4, like having 1 prize, is like not out of the realm of possibility. But what's weird about this list is they're playing a 2-2 line of Dragapult VMAX. Now, Dragapult VMAX has Shred on its first attack, which is just a built-in counter to a lot of things like Decidueye, Zamazenta VMAX, all those like really annoying wall effects that sometimes decks don't have an answer to, and if you don't have an answer to these wall effects, they can kind of run through a tournament without being checked if they don't have any of those checks in place. Max Phantom is a second attack for 130 damage. You do for 2 psychic, you do 130 damage and place 5 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon any way you like. Now, this does set up a 2-shot as opposed to a 3-shot, or maybe even a 1-shot if you can get enough energies onto the board. But the interesting thing is Max Phantom caps at 130, whereas Alchemy VMAX has unlimited damage possibilities. So why is this list better? Well, I really don't know. I just thought it was interesting. So that's the punchline you were waiting for the video. Like, is Dragapult better? I honestly don't know. I would like to say no, almost certainly. As candid as I could be, I think the answer is no. But it's a cool list, so we're gonna look at it. There's 2 copies of Cresselia, which means that this deck does benefit greatly from going second. If you go second, get a Crescent Glow off and get those 3 energies onto the board, your Max Geists are now a lot stronger. Right off the bat, your Photon Laser is going to be activated by turn 2, turn 3. So yeah, Cresselia is really, really strong in this build. I definitely think Cresselia is a card that is being underrated in the post-rotation format. There is 1 copy of Galarian Zapdos to deal with Eternatus, I believe, probably. It's just a good card also in general, but I think the primary reason is probably Eternatus because you have 2 of your attackers both being weak to Dark. Again, I don't understand why Dragapult is just better than Alchemy. I don't think it is. Zapdos is just going to come in with Fighting Instinct and Thunderous Kick, and you should be able to deal with Eternatus. You have 2 copies of Crobat V as well to kind of set up behind and get your ball rolling if you need to. It has 2 copies of Old Cemetery, which is a stadium. Whenever any player attaches an energy card from their hand to one of their non-psychic Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on the Pokemon. So you do get some damage counters into play, and you have a stadium to counter Path to the Peak. Now, notably, it's a little bit weird that there are only 2 in this list. If it was me, I would probably make it a 3rd, but also I wouldn't be playing Dragapult, and I also think Old Cemetery is worse than Training Court, strictly. But with this strategy you have going for you, maybe this is like what you want to do. Get some of those early damage counters in, set up for those Max Geists, etc. There's 2 copies of Switch, 4 copies of Quick Ball, very staple, 1 copy of Pal Pad, very nice to get our supporters back in, but I think also I would probably just make it a 3rd boss, if anything, because I think that Pal Pad ultimately will always become a boss's orders. There's 1 copy of Ordinary Rod, which I think is good. I think Ordinary Rod is very strong in these lists that are piloting these 2-2 lines, these splashable 2-2 lines in the upcoming format, because if you pitch one of the pieces and the other piece is prized, getting it back is really difficult a lot of the time. So you need to have that Ordinary Rod to keep your strategy going and dedicating more than a 2/2 line to this Dragapult to this Alchemy does feel really bad because they're just like a side attacker. You want to be able to get these Shadow Rider Calyrexes out into play. That is the primary purpose of the deck. You want to get those guys into play, get the ball rolling on them. But, you know, here and there, you want that Alchemy. You want that Alchemy to deal with, you know, Galarian Moltres, that's other things, you know, etc., X, Y, and Z. There's 4 copies of Fog Crystal. Search your deck for a Psychic Energy or a basic Psychic Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand. I think that's a very, very strong card off the bat. Again, every Psychic deck should be playing this card for sure. 2 copies of Evolution Incense. Definitely a very interesting choice. I think there should be more copies of Evolution Incense, especially because your draw engine is evolution cards, but this list did go 5-1, so maybe I am missing something. I think heavier copies of Evolution Incense probably benefits this deck greatly. I don't know what I'd cut, though. List is very tight. 2 copies of Energy Retrieval. This is like our pseudo training court because we do want to get those energies back that do hit the bin. And by getting 2 energies back, if there's no path to the peak in play, that is another 2 cards we have to draw. And an energy into play, another 2 cards we have to draw, another energy into play. So it's basically a net of 4 cards and 2 energy attachments onto the board if you have 2 Shadow Riders up. And by the point Energy Retrieval is useful, almost certainly you have those Shadow Riders into play. There's 2 copies of Boss, 4 copies of Marnie, and 3 copies of Research. Feels like a little bit more of a disruption out if you're going with the 4 Marnie. Very interesting for the boss count only being 2 comparatively. But again, this list feels very tight. Yeah, so I think this is fine across the board. There are 2 copies of Air Balloon to kind of pivot out of your active, move as quickly as you can, run around as you want. There's 12 Psychic Energies and 2 Aurora Energies. The Aurora Energies don't hurt you in any way. It's just not acceleratable. My trade is complete. Nice. It's just not acceleratable. So in that situation, you want to be able to have basic Psychics, which is just better in a lot of scenarios. But I guess the benefit Dragapult does have over Alchemy is it has a 1 retreat cost as opposed to a 3 retreat cost that Alchemy sports. So you can kind of pivot around the board a little bit easier. But I'm trying to think of the matchup spread right now. Your Rapid Strike Urshifu matchup should already be favored. I don't think it helps you in Ice Raider any way. I don't think it helps you in like a Zacian matchup in any way. I don't think it helps you in a Tornadus anyway. Any deck that plays Galarian Moltres, I don't think Dragapult helps you. So while this is a deck profile, I wanted to be completely candid with you guys. When a new deck like this does come out, don't always be attracted to the glam, the shininess of a new deck. You have to stop and think critically about a deck list before you can even like, you know, bring it to your testing circle, bring it to your thing. Like if this was a regionals weekend, for example, or this was a important weekend coming up for me, I would take this list, I would bring it over to testing, but I would have to think about the matchups critically like I am doing with you guys right now on this video and tell you like straight up what matchups does Dragapult improve over Alchemy? What am I getting over not? Dragapult doesn't discard energy, sure, that's a benefit, but they both share a weakness. You're not improving any of your negative matchups by having Dragapult in. At least Alchemy can one-shot something that is a threat. Alchemy can deal with something that is a weak darkness weak type, like darkness type, sorry. So what are you really benefiting off the back of playing this Dragapult VMAX over the Alchemy? What are you really benefiting off of playing Old Cemetery over Training Court, or another way to deal with Path to the Peak? So that's where your critical thinking comes in as a player, and that's something you'll learn as you play a lot more and kind of think about it. I'm sure a lot of you already looked at the list and you're like, why is there Dragapult in here? But if you made it to the end and you are like willing to learn along with me and take the teachings that I give you guys from Pokemon, this is a video about like, not only is this deck cool, it's a cool deck, don't get me wrong, the concept is very cool, and you probably destroy Rapid Strike. Like, that seems very good for you. Like, Rapid Strike is a very nice matchup. But at the end of the day, you have to think critically and be like, hey, is this deck better than the alternative? Is this deck really going to reinvent the wheel? And the answer is no. So this is not just a clickbait title. I think I'm probably going to clickbait the title as like, is Dragapult VMAX better than Alchemy? And the answer is going to be no. So there is no actual clickbait. I actually did answer the question. But if you guys did enjoy the video and the content and you're learning a lot from me, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. A lot of the overwhelming support I've been receiving the last couple of days has been very amazing. I do want to do more VOD reviews, more commentary, casting, that kind of style of stuff. Pokemon Unite content was not doing as well as I'd hoped, so depending on how busy I am, that'll be on the back burner a little bit. There seems to be a lot of other YouTubers and content creators who are doing much better for themselves with that route. I think I'm going to stick to the TCG aspect, but anything Pokemon is what I love. So thank you guys for watching, as always, and I'll see you guys on Friday.